Hi, everyone. Good evening. Happy Wednesday. My name is Jen with Slow Garden Center. I'm just going to talk for a bit while people are logging on. Welcome to our webinar on Japanese maple pruning with Elizabeth Ruiz. Elizabeth is incredible. She's one of our most popular presenters. There she is. And so you're all in for a treat, a lot of great information that she'll be sharing. In fact, I was just telling her that she is so popular, whatever she wants to do, we'll have her back and she can present. So I just thought, why don't I ask you all what you'd like to know how to prune? Because we're thinking we'll do a blueberry class and also a grape class, and then maybe just a general pruning class. But if you have something that you'd be interested in seeing her, I'd actually be really curious. So email me, Jen Strobel at slopegardens.com, and we can get that lined up. Okay, Elizabeth, I'm going to turn it over to you. I know you have a ton of information. So thank you all for joining us, and take it away.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Elizabeth Ruiz, and I am going to be talking a little bit in how I manage my maples. So I am gonna share my presentation with you guys. A lot of the times I'm gonna be in and out of the presentation because I wanna zoom in to things. So through the slideshow, I'm gonna go in and out. Just wanna let you guys know it's not like a mistake, but I'm just really trying to do zoom in my pictures. So the few things I wanted to talk is first, pick up the right maple for the space. And with that, I have in mind the shape and the size. I have in mind the growth habit, which I'm going to explain, and I have in mind the microclimate. So those are the three things I'm going to kind of like go over a little bit. So I know that as a pruner, as a person that do pruning, it's easy to think that we can keep every maple small, but sometimes it's important that we realize that if you keep the maple small, sometimes it's too harsh for the maple if the maple is supposed to be really big, or if the maple is having a lot of stimulus, like for example a lot of water, like in this case it's in the lawn. So maybe keeping a maple small is really difficult. So having the right shape and size is actually pretty important. Like that, you can actually keep the natural growth habit of the plant. So I have here the most common three shapes of the maples. We have the round maple. What I mean is the canopy is kind of rounded. It can be a single trunk or it can be a multi-trunk. The growth habit of this maple is usually has those horizontal branches. The horizontal branches are usually at the lower section of the plant. So in this case, for example, I have another one with horizontal branching that you can see even better. So that is one of the things about trying to keep your maple small and still having horizontal branches. So if it's small, the horizontality, you're gonna lose it more than if you have a tree that match the size. Then we have the dome shape. That's usually the less leaf maple. Also in the rounded shape, the common trees are the straight species, are usually rounded, pretty much the one that has the green leaves, as Acetor palmatum. That Acer palmatum is a straight species that usually end up being pretty rounded. The bloodgood is also pretty rounded. So the dome shape is one that I actually do try to keep those three groups separate. So the dome shape is usually the lace leaf maples, the one that has that cascading habit. the growth habit, what I mean is how the plant naturally will grow. That is what I try to mean with grow habit. So the branches in the dome shape maples usually flow up and down. They had a lot of movement, and they have crossing branches. So in this case, for example, I have the picture here when there is branch movement and there is some crossing branches, and it's okay. It's part of the nature of the plant. And what we do as a pruners is we want to actually show that and let the tree express it and highlight it. So we cannot actually make a maple that is going up the shape or the rounded shape to be cascading. I do have few clients that had asked me, oh, they like the color, but they choose that one, make it cascade. That is really difficult. I actually have to say, I cannot do that. This is what I can do. But if you want cascading, just please buy the lace leaf maples, that they are the ones that cascade down. They do grow up and they do grow tall. I have few dome shapes that can be like a good 5 feet, 6 feet, 7 feet, 8 feet tall. So it is important that even though if you want to keep it small, you can keep it small. It's not difficult. You just have to keep it on it. Don't let it grow to be 5 feet and then say, I just want it to be 3 feet. So it's really easy to keep it small, but you just have to do it regularly. So then with the dome shape, sorry, I keep going back. With the dome shape, one of the things is, remember that these ones, they need to go wide. They are all, think about in the size, not only in how tall it is, but how wide it's gonna get. They can get pretty wide. They can get up to, I have one that is 7 feet tall and at least 8 feet wide. So they can go pretty wide. The ones that in the nursery, the ones that have really a strong growth, like the branches are really, they are shooting out. I don't know if you can see this, but if the growth is like this big, so then you can totally see, oh, it's gonna be a tree that is gonna grow a lot. If the growth is like this, really small, compared with that one, so then you can tell, okay, this is gonna be a little bit more soft. So again, if the growth is this small and tender, when you buy it in the nursery, so it's not gonna be a really strong plant. But if when you are getting it to the nursery, you see branches are like this thick, so then you know that it can grow really strong, even though it's supposed to be a cascading down tree. With the dome shaped trees, what happens is if you prune it so hard, if you like wait years and then start pruning it and you start pruning it really hard, they react really hard. So instead of cascading down, they're just gonna shoot out and up. And then they don't generate branching, they just go straight up shoots. So they kind of lose a little bit the grow habit if you are pruning really hard. So try it. That is why I'm talking about size and shape and space, because it is really important, that combination. Then we have the V shape. And the V shape, what I mean is you can see that this tree is kind of like going kind of thin at the bottom, and then it goes, it widens up at the top. Those are, for example, the coral bark maples. In this case, this is not red. The coral bark maple is this one with the red bark. For example, those have the tendency to be more a V shape. You have that growth going up really strong. The structure just have that V, and you want to enhance that. And then your horizontal branch is really little. It goes really little and it develops with time. So they are actually pretty strong growers, but your horizontal branching comes later on with time. So if I am looking at this, my horizontal branch is gonna come here, it's gonna come really slow. This is what becomes, and that making your small horizontal branching at the end. So you don't wanna thin out all the little stuff. For this V shape, I will say they are the ones that are a little bit more open. If you give them the space to grow, they're a little bit more open and airy than the rounded ones or the dome-shaped ones. So if you have a space that is with trees, or so you have, it's gonna be under canopy tree. These V-shaped trees are really good with it because he can just flow through other trees and look really natural and beautiful. So then again, the essence of the maple, we all, like the maples because of the colors, because of the leaves are so soft and beautiful and they're delicate. So when we are looking at the pruning and caring of the plant, we want to enhance that. We wanna take that and make the best out of it. So when we are talking about the dome shapes, we want to enhance that movement. We want to enhance that crossing. We want to enhance the cascade. When we are talking about the horizontal branching ones, that kind of like rounded ones, we want to kind of like have that horizontal branching develop and mark. The one thing about these trees, though, is a lot of people gets kind of like, there is a misconception. They actually don't do horizontal branching at the top. It's just kind of like at the bottom and the mid side. At the top, they are a little bit more kind of like rounded and going up, but that is normal. So the horizontal branching develops more later on with the year. So if you are planting a really young tree, so the horizontal branching comes later on. It's not like if, not in small trees, like in young trees. So now I'm gonna go back to sharing my screen because this one is all slides. So in here I have what the plant cycle is and the to-dos. And for me, this is really, really important. I want everybody to kind of get a call on in how I am looking at the plant. Because one of the things that I see is we do want to put maples in places that they are focal point trees, but sometimes those spaces are really limited. And what happened is that we end up pruning really hard the maple, and the maple end up overreacting. So one thing is, yes, there is such a thing about pruning too much and damaging a maple. The other thing, so then when, how do we control the maple? We can control maples by working with the cycle of the maple. And that is what I'm gonna kind of like go through right now with your to-dos. Because that is how I do. So I prune maples 4 times a year. I prune maples, well, let's see, I prune maples in spring, I prune maples in fall, and I prune maples in winter. So actually 3 times, 3 times a year. So, and I explain here a little bit what you do and what are we gonna do this month or this season, and what to expect for next season. So I'm gonna go with the season. So the first season is the spring season, is the growing season. We are almost there. So I am putting here, late March to June. Usually what I will say is if your maple is growing right now, I have one maple that is the buds are getting really thick. So I am saying, your maple is already in spring. So this March to June is just to give you a guidance. But I will say, like I always say, listen to your tree. If your tree is opening up or leafing out, so then your tree is in another season, and that is what you need to go with. So in the spring season, they're gonna be growing. Is what they do. Some of them produce that beautiful spring color. And then the one thing that is important, really, really important about this season is that you actually take the time to look at your tree and see how the tree is reacting. I do have to say that my experience for last year, and we have to adjust to the situation. We are cutting in water, we are reducing water consumption everywhere. So maybe our trees are gonna feel it. And I do have to say that I was talking with one of my friends and I was telling him, you know, I'm going really fast with my pruning. And I think it's just because I think, no, my conclusion is that the trees are reacting less, are growing less. So that's why I put here spring. If you want to learn how to listen to your tree or read your tree, is look at how the tree is reacting. So if you have a really the strongest, longest, or strongest growth is supposed to be in spring. Then they keep growing in summer and fall, but it's not supposed to be that strong. So if your tree is growing really little this spring, so maybe don't prune it too much and don't expect a lot of growth the rest of the year. And so that's why I have few trees last year that they didn't grow much. So I didn't prune it that hard. I just left it kind of like full, a little bit fuller than I usually do. And my clients were like, why? And I'm like, because I think this is the growth for the year. And I was right. It didn't grow much. I didn't have to do full pruning. And I just went back to winter. So if your tree is growing really little, they can, in spring, there can be two reasons. One is stress. It's just general stress in the tree. And the other one that is a relationship that we don't realize much is it could be that maybe we cut the water in fall. I have few clients that just fall got a little bit cold. It was kind of foggy, and they went and cut the water fully. And what happened is in fall, the trees are putting the energy in the root system. So if they didn't have enough water, so they didn't put enough energy in the root system. And that is why we see little growth in spring. So now, what are we gonna do in spring? Of course, we're gonna start our water. If we're, I mean, I am telling people, you know, you could start your water now. If you have a plant that has been planted for a long time, you can just put water once a month in these dry winters. Once a month, twice a month is enough for the tree. Something is better than nothing. And I will say if you do once a month, do a deep watering and just let it be. The pruning I do the thinning. I'm gonna show you a little bit what I mean with thinning, but pretty much my tree is gonna get really thick and it's not gonna look, you cannot see through, so I make it see through. I work a lot in the tops, and because I want light to keep going through, so my lower branches are still alive. My little new growth keeps living. I doesn't get shaded fully, and then die. I work in my branch definitions, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about this later on, but it's just in general, this is the to-dos. I generate a space between branches. So I do work in spring in my maples quite a lot. I actually do a little bit of everything, but it's structural. So, and then if I need it, if the tree is really stressed and I see that it's declining, and so then I will fertilize the tree. These maples, I do have to say that maples are not plants that need fertilizing every year. Of course, they are not gonna need fertilizer every season. So it's really important that you realize that. So I'm just putting it there because if somebody needs to, if the tree is declining and you need to fertilize it, so then this will be a good time to do it. So this is an example of my spring pruning. So in my spring pruning, this is one of the dome maples, like the dome shaped maple. So this, I thought that was a really good example So in that case, this is going to be how it looks in the spring, and I go and open up, so all my little branches inside are there. You can see through. I don't get pests through or anything because I have it open and airy. I don't have my lower branches dying. So when I do this, I can do that anytime in the spring. Well, actually, usually I let the tree in the spring, I let it grow a little bit, and then I come and do that. I do my spring pruning. I start with my spring pruning in April, usually. So yes, I'm gonna let it become a little thicker. If my tree is still looking like that in the spring, or no, not that much, but I still open and airy, I let it grow a little bit more, and then I prune it. If my tree is overreacting, so I wait a little bit and do a late spring pruning. But yes, in this one I did reduce it. Anything that is coming up in this tree, I'm gonna cut it. You can see branch definition, you can see flow, you can see through. Then we go with plant cycle for the summer season. So we have the trees. The trees are still growing, but it's really slow growth. So I do in some of the, for example, in my pruning season, because it's just so small, it's like 2 months, really 3 months for pruning. If I'm gonna go actually with the spring. So what I do is I start my spring pruning in like the harder areas, Concord or Danville, Walnut Creek, and I finish with my spring pruning in summer, like in San Francisco, Mill Valley, all the foggy areas where my trees are protected. So the one thing about the summer that we want to keep an eye is that the leaves harden. So what happened, this is important, and then that the bark can get sunburned if you open up too much and it's too hot. So those are the things that can happen with the tree. Usually I don't do much for summer with the maples. How I say, I do my spring pruning later on in areas that are protected, but I'm actually doing spring pruning still. So what it is needed in summer, that is for sure. I am gonna show you a tool that is really good for deep watering your maples if you need it. You can buy it at Slows. When we see products, I will show it to you. Do not transplant. I wanted to put this one here because I had so many people transplanting the maples in summer, and they just don't do good. A lot of the parts die. It's just not a good time to transplant. And if you need to fertilize, if you need it, this could be another time to do it. So pretty much there is not much pruning to do in summer. So then we come in fall. Fall is actually a pretty important month. I do one thing, because there is a lot of things happening in fall for the maples, and there is a lot of things that you can do for the maples. So in fall, so I put here officially and fall pruning, just because for me fall starts from August to November, but officially it's from September to December. So pretty much the important things that you want, so pretty much my fall pruning is extended because I am looking at certain things in the tree, and I'm working with what the tree is doing. So seed pods, the seed pods is this little thing that I put here. That is an indicator. That is gonna say that is when the tree stops growing. So my assumption or my prediction is that we are going to have seed pods earlier this year. It may not be, it may be like closer to summer than in fall. That is my prediction. I might be wrong, but I'm just telling you this. When the seed pods, just to make sure that we are paying attention to our climate and our trees and climate change and all that. So why is important the seed pods? Because the seed pods are telling you I'm not growing anymore. And if I am going to trees, which happened last year, if I am going to your house and I am seeing seed pods right after spring growth, the tree is telling me that the tree is stressed. So I am gonna have to keep an eye on that. So when people say, oh my God, how do I care of your trees, of my maples, I would say, pay attention to the signs. Seed pods is a really good sign to pay attention. So the first sign in spring was how much the growth was. It's the same that last year, it's the same than usual. The second is seed pods. If the seed pod starting, well, if you have 2 or 3, it's okay. But if you are having 90% or 80% or 75% of seed pods all around your tree, so then that means your tree is way ahead. And being way ahead in the growing season for the maples is we are getting stressed. And maybe water is required. So then the other thing that they do that is really important that I kind of like touched up earlier is they put in fall, they put and store energy in the root system. So it is not a good idea that we cut the water in fall. We could change how often with water. So if it's an established tree, so then you can actually do deep watering and don't do it so often, but extend the space in between waterings. But it's actually pretty important that you water. And in fall also is the fall color. So the fall color, the tree is telling you, I'm getting prepared for winter. So what they are doing is they are releasing hormones that are helping the tree not to actually get frozen when it's really cold outside. And even though we don't get too cold, they do it. So it is really, that is when the tree is telling you, okay, this is the last time you can put fertilizer on me and I'm gonna take it. This is important that that we realize that, because like a lot of the people say, hey, you wanna do fall pruning? And when I come and it's fall color, I say, well, right now I'm doing winter pruning really. And I don't know if I wanna start pruning when they have the fall color, because I want them to be able to do their thing, which is important, protect themselves from getting frozen, I guess. So those are, so for me, actually, that is something that if you take something out of this class, take how important fall season is and how much you can actually see what is happening in your trees in fall. So what do I do in fall? It's the best time to fertilize, because you are gonna help for the next year growth, not for this year, but for the next year. In the pruning, I do my detailed work for focal point trees. So I actually work in getting my branches defined, but this is for really focal point trees, not for so trees that I have really close to houses and windows, and I have really little space to grow. I do fall pruning. In fall, I also do reduction in size of the trees that I'm having issue getting them down. So how I say, if you prune really hard your tree, they're gonna grow really strong. So in fall, sometimes I do go and say, okay, this is a fall pruning, because I am gonna have to cut, I'm gonna have to do my winter pruning in fall. So what that does, I don't recommend it if you don't know how to prune, and it's just because that is gonna stunt your tree. That's why, well, it's here highlighted and everything. So it is really important that you are careful. But if you are having one of those cascade dome shaped trees that you are like, oh, okay, this is driving me crazy, I cut it so hard and it comes back triple. So then that is when you have to do your fall pruning. Okay, so in this case, I have just 2 pictures on how fall pruning is. So pretty much this will be the tree, how I left it before. This is the little growth that I will get. So I go really quick and just shape my tree in fall pruning. This is right at the entry. So my client, she's kind of like, come and shape it a little bit. It has those hairs. People always say, oh, it has those hairs out. Sometimes when I cut really strong a tree, one side, so then it gets a little bit off shape. So I go, and that purple means this is kind of like my visual shape of my tree. And that is whatever is outside that purple line is what I'm gonna be cutting to. So that is kind of like a fall pruning. So you can see these trees are in the long situation. So of course, when I do my spring pruning, they are gonna react. They are getting a lot of water. So if your tree is not doing that, I will not do fall pruning. I will just go all the way to winter. And now winter. So this is the winter season. They are not doing much, actually. Your trees are doing nothing. Just they are not dead. They are just dormant. They don't have any leaves. When is winter season? I didn't put it here, but your winter season, when your tree is bare without leaves is winter for them. So the definition of winter, I don't know when it is, but for me is when the tree is doesn't have any leaves, or if I need to, for example, this last December, I had to I start doing a lot of my fruit, my maples, and if they have the fall color, so then that means I can actually do my winter pruning there. So there are those two signs, when they have the fall color or when they are bare without leaves. Again, I don't want to stress the tree too much in fall because they are doing that seasoning themselves for winter or preparing themselves for winter. But yeah, and then the other thing that they are doing is a good time for them to have those roots growing. If you just planted, it's a good time to do planting and transplanting, or repotting is a really good time. Winter is a really good time to do all that. Again, if we have dry winters, add water. You don't have to add water every day, but just once a month is good. For the potting, once a week, once every 2 weeks is good. In winter, what I do this winter pruning is really important because that is when I work in my structure. That is when I do my strong reduction. That is when the tree is naked and I can actually see everything that I really couldn't see when it's lifted out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what structural work means, but I do all of this, thinning the branches, reducing, and structural work. The one thing I don't do is cutting little things. I don't do that. I focus in like the big work. So when winter stops, I went to a house last week and the buds were coming out. So that means the tree is in already spring. So do not prune your trees at that time. And it's not like you're gonna hurt your tree, but it's just gonna get so thick and dense. Because remember, it's when it's starting to grow. It's the strongest growth. It's when they are more stimulated. So it is really important that you don't prune at that time. You can just wait. So winter pruning steps. This is what we're doing right now this season. We're a little late, but we're not too late. I am still doing winter. I still have clients all the way to mid-March. So it's fine. So then when you are looking at your tree, the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna cut your dead and disease and damage. And why you wanna do that? Because then you know what you have. You know what the tree is going through. If it's a lot of dead in your tree, so then you can say, okay, maybe my tree is stressed. So the structural work I was talking to you guys about before, and I repeated many times, is we're gonna look at the main scaffold. So in this drawing, in this picture, I try to draw and highlight the structure in one section. So this is how the tree will look generally, you know, and I don't go and try to clean all this stuff in winter. That is for spring. I don't do that in winter. That can be in fall. This is a focal point tree. So I do that in spring and I do that in fall, but I don't do it in winter. So, and the reason why is because in winter, when you cut and you start reducing all that in spring, it's just gonna shoot out even more. And I don't want it to get thicker in my branches that are already developed and formed. So I leave those for spring and for fall, for focal point trees for fall. So then what I am gonna look is at my structure and how my main scaffolds, my structure, develops and moves throughout the tree. So in this case, for example, in this drawing over here, for example, we have a really good simple structure. You have your main trunk and then you have your lateral branches going horizontal, and that is a really simple, which is a drawing because usually they don't look like that. But you know, just to show the examples. In this case, this is a real one, and I always look and take my time in winter to look at my main scaffolds and see how they are developing. So if this is a V shape, which it is, so then I want my branches to be up and out. So you can see this branch going up and out. And all of them are gonna be up and out. I don't try to leave one branch, but I try to develop some branches. You can see that my horizontal branches are at the bottom and my upper section is a little bit in the thicker section, which is normal. So when I am looking at my structure, what I am looking for? I am looking for like things that I need to cut will be the crossing, the three C's, the crossing, competing, and crowding. So in this drawing, which is easier to identify, the blue ones, so for example, this will be something that is crossing. And maybe in this type of maple, I don't want that. I may want it in the one that is dome shape. The crossing is fine, but in this one, I don't. So in this case, any of this crossing here or this crossing here, you know, it started from one point and suddenly it's crossing around. This crossing here, even though it's not blue, I can see a crossing here. I don't want that type of crossing. I don't want any rubbing. I don't want anything like that in my maple. Also, if I want my maple to be open and airy, the crossing is the one thing that makes it look really crowded. Especially for like rounded and V-shaped trees. So I wanna remove the crossing. The competing is branches like, for example, these two are kind of competing. You can see the blue one next to the other one, and they're gonna be growing into the same space. Instead of having two branches, it can be parallel. You can call it parallel or competing. So then in that case, I'm gonna remove one of them. So the blue one is the one that I'm removing. And crowding is the same thing. So crowding is something that, for example, this one is not in the same space, but this one is going up and crowding the other one. So I can lift up my tree by removing these two and having more space for this branch to develop instead of this one crowding it. So this one will be something like damaged or dead. This can be something that is damaged or dead. So usually that is what I focus in winter. I go and look at my main scaffolds, how they flow in the tree, and start with those, not with the little things. You got stuck, wait. Okay, so where are we? Okay, so now here is, for example, my before and after picture. I'm just gonna let this one go there. So this is a normal thing that happens with a lot of the maples when we are trying to keep them small. They're gonna shoot out really long shoots and go out really strong. So that is not something that is that the tree is doing something wrong. That is normal and they happen. So what I want to do is I want to get it back to looking normal, which it will be something like that. So I cut some of the shoots, I make it look more normal. I left some here. But I don't.
Elizabeth,
Uh-huh.
I don't think we can see the one you're talking about right now. Wait,
Oh, okay. Or resume sharing. I'm sorry. I thought that I was sharing. Now you can?
No, it's still on the winter pruning steps one.
Okay. So yeah, I got frozen. Oh, okay.
This is so much amazing information. Just while she's getting that slide up, I do want to just have a moment and just note that it clearly is, she does the work of an artist on these trees. Okay. Like, and it's so important when you have these specimens in your garden. So yeah,
Can you see
okay,
now?
now we can see it.
Okay, so this is what I was saying about like winter pruning before and after. So you can totally see how it will go crazy when you are trying to keep your tree small. It will go crazy and having a lot of those. I don't go and prune it really hard to nothing. I try to look for lower branches to cut too. So and open up a little bit so you see how thick is here. So I open up a little bit, some of the thickness. I don't fix everything in my tree one season. I open up and I have my 30-25% budget for how much I can remove a year. And then I come back in spring. So this is what I try to do in my winter pruning. So I go and I look at my scaffolds, I do reduction, and I'm gonna show you in the other slides what do I mean. So in this case, for example, this was a tree that I found in the street and I thought, oh my God, this is so good for this class. So I took pictures and I'm using them. It's not my tree. And so things that I want you to realize, for example, is at the top, well, you always want to cut to something, and this is going to come later, but you don't want to do like your main. So this is a really thick branch, and when you cut like that, what is going to happen is going to go back to this. So the more that you cut to something, so in this case, this is what I mean with cutting to something. So you can cut to a bud in the last year growth, or in the current year growth. You can cut to a bud, and then this is what is going to happen. It's going to shoot out with two, or it's going to branch out a little bit. So it's going to produce two shoots. You can cut to a branchlet, which is even better, because in that case, you can actually select where the branch is going to go, or where you want your branch to grow. So for example, if there is a wall here and I select my branch going one direction or the other one, that is beneficial for me. I'm actually training my tree. I'm actually telling my tree what to do. The other thing is how far do we go with the cuts? So in the section that I was showing my winter pruning, you can see how you can actually, this can be thinning out, this can be reducing in height, or it can be just reducing in length. So in this case, by cutting here, you are thinning out, you can cut here and you are reducing in length. So you always try to cut to something. In these ones, I put two examples in these red boxes, even though they are not maple. Well, actually this one may be a maple. So, but what I want to try to show here is when you cut and you cut really hard, these are the not to do's, because when you cut and you cut really hard, you end up having a lot of growth that is like reactive growth, and it's just going to go all over the place. So you want to do good transitions. And with what I mean with that is try to think about sizes and the size that you are cutting and the size that you are leaving. And that will give you a good transition. And what it's going to do is it's going to give you growth that is more natural. If I come and I am cutting a branch and I'm cutting 75% of the branch or 85% of the branch, what is going to happen is this maple is going to produce double the growth or a bunch of shoots out of that cut. So think about how much are you cutting in every branch, and try to always cut to a branchlet. That is gonna give you less of the reaction. When you are cutting and so for example, in this case, if we, instead of doing that cut, you just better cut to the collar, remove fully the branch. And so you can cut here to the collar, and that will give you little branches that will grow from there. In this case, this is a bad cut, and then the tree is not being able to heal. So this is a good cut, and the tree is able to heal. So all these are for all trees. So I know that those are not maple barks and cuts, but they're gonna do the same thing. So that is really important to keep it in mind, because yeah, it's important for the pruning. So in this case, you can see this tree was just cut with no transitions of anything. So I will say, instead of doing that, you could have just gone to leaving 3 branches and carry that thick one over there where the green is. In this section, when I was talking about looking at the structure, when you have a branch that is growing one way and then coming back and crossing the whole tree and shape it, maybe that is the branch that it needs to go for your winter pruning. And that is why in winter, I don't go with cutting just the little things. I cut everything. I cut all the big structure, and the little things I do it later on in spring. So I want to show you hands-on how to yeah. So here you guys can see the branch. So I ask, but I can.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so let's talk about this one as if this is our maple. So in this case, we have, let me see if I can lower it a little bit more. So in this case, we have a maple that, and this is actually a maple, but it's a lace leaf maple, but it's okay. I'm just gonna use it as a sample for another maple. So the first thing I do is I look at my branching. I go around, I look at my branching, and I realize that this poor maple, one, is kind of like loud-sided, so this section is stronger than this section, and it's reacting stronger. So how do I know that? Because of the thickness of the branches and how tall they are. This one, I also have a lot more growth, so thin growth. So this is more curly and wiggly and not branches on it. This one, we have little branches. So I know that this section is kind of like, okay, this is overgrown. Maybe this is my sunny side. So the first thing I do is I look at how my branches are moving and where are the crossing and all that stuff. So in this case, this looks like the one that is crossing. So that is the one thing that I'm gonna try to figure it out what to do. What do? I relate what is going on around. So I know I have this branch that is kind of like growing inwards and moving inward the tree, when I have this nice branch going around with nice growth. So maybe that is the one I'm gonna cut. So I go, place myself and cut it. So now I have more openness in that section, and I don't have more problems. And now this one, that is the branch I want, it's not being crowded by the other one. So then the other thing that I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reduce it. So in this case, I'm gonna come here. Well, I broke the one I wanna reduce. So in this case, I'm gonna go here and I can come and reduce. I'm gonna come and reduce here, and I come and reduce here. This is dead, I should have cut it before. And then I'm gonna come and reduce here. So I did some of the reduction. I look a little bit of my structure. I have 2 branches growing in here. So in this case, I don't wanna just cut everything. I could just go and say, I'm gonna reduce this one and see if this branch out here. I'm gonna give you another one that is actually, oh, this one. This is another sample of, so let's say that this is our tree. We have like major trunks here. Well, that would be like our main scaffolds. So this is what I'm looking at, my main scaffolds and how they are, where they are growing and how they are relating. So in this case, I have nice main scaffold. These are nice main scaffolds. So I go around and I look that this main scaffold is actually competing with the center. So this one here, this one. So they are growing two up and they are actually competing with the center. So I don't want that, especially because I have this branch here that can be a good branch. It's more horizontal and it's gonna grow. So that will be, I can go cutting it here and see what happened with that. If this is a really sharp angle, then I will cut it, but in this case, I can cut it here. So that is one of the things I will do. I go around and I look at that stuff and see if it needs to be cut or it needs to be reduced. So for this, for the structural, I do take my time to look, going around and looking at the tree. So we already did a little bit of reducing. I'm gonna do a little bit more. But the important thing is that you look at your structure, see how it flows, where this is going and everything. So this is another branch that I say, okay, this is my structure. I'm not looking at the little things. I'm looking at my main structure and I can see that this one is going inwards, this one is going that way, this is coming up and here. So I could say, well, if I cut here, now I have a more up and out tree, and then I can do my reduction. I can do my reduction, and then I have a tree that flows better. You could look at the little things, but I don't want to do that if I have a branch that is interfering. If I have a lot of growth in the point, if I have a growth in the crotch, this is the crotch where the two branches meet, or where the branch and the trunk meets. If I have growth there, I will clean it out. But I mainly are doing a structural pruning, which is this. If I have something like really, if I have a top that is really thick, so then I can come and say, okay, I'm gonna thin out some of the tops. So I try to generate like V shapes in my branches, and developing growth like that. In this case, seems pretty good and open to me. Let's look at this one here. I have this one that's really crowded. So then in that case, I will go around and I can see, you know, well, this branch again, actually this branch broke. So what I'm gonna do is remove that. I just don't want that to fall in the, then I'm gonna see, you know, like some of this branch that is kind of like was cut before and it doesn't work. You can see how, I don't know if you can see how these two are, this one and this one and this one are growing so close to each other. So then if I am reducing my tree in height, I'm gonna go and cut. So I went and cut this one, the thick one, and left the other one. I have another two branches growing parallel here. So I am gonna come and cut one of them again. Which one I will cut? Well, before I cut, I look at the branches and how they are growing. Again, if I have a really strong branch and I want to reduce the tree, so then I go cutting the strongest branch. In this case, both of them are pretty similar. So I'm gonna go and cut this one, and then I go a little higher up, and I can see, well, you know, if I want to still open up my tops, I'm gonna cut, I cut this one here. This one is coming in. So then I can, I have to hold the, hold the branch. Then I'm gonna cut it here. And then I can just do a little bit of that shaping in the top, and that is a structural pruning. Let's say that right now I do have a lot of growth in here. I'm not gonna cut all the growth at the center because I already did 1 pruning, 2 prunings, 3 pruning here, 3 cuts, 4 cuts, kind of like in the same spot. And so when you do cuts and cuts and cuts in one close spot, that is when the tree is gonna start reacting. So I have my budget. It was 25%. I did big 1, 2, 3, 4 cuts, 6 cuts. I can reduce even more if I want to, but I will not go with a structural pruning more than 25%. Meaning you don't want to cut more than, you know, a quarter of what you have structurally in your tree. Because if you do that, the tree is going to react stronger. So that's what I will do in winter. Now, when you have a less leaf maple, you're going to have branches that are going to grow more down instead of what I was kind of like showing you guys. So the first thing I do with the less leaf maple is I remove all those dry old leaves. The second thing I do is I look at my structure. My structure wants to show that movement, and it's gonna have a crossing branch. So in this case, if I have a branch coming from here, going that way, I'm gonna leave it unless that is like really resting in each other. I'm gonna leave it. I can do that movement really easily, and I actually encourage that in my less leaf maples. The way that I do with the less leaf maple for them not to grow or to generate that branch definition is working with the things that are going up. So a lot of the times I just come and cut. I can cut to the middle, or I can cut and leave the ones that the branches that are going down. So in this case, I can cut to the branch that is going down. These ones, I try to reduce them so they keep branching out. And branches that are growing like this, one into each other, I can just cut it here. And then I have my tree. I try to, with the less leaf maples, I always try to leave 3 branches. The center that is longer, like my fingers, the center that is longer, and then the other ones that are shorter. The other 2 that are shorter. So in this case, for example, let's see if I can make it see. So in this case, it's a little bit crowded. So in this case, what I will do is I will cut this one, and I generate, cutting that one, I generate a space. I cut the one that is going up. I cut this one here, and I cut this one here, and I generate that space. And then maybe I can cut this one here, and then I have a little bit more of that space there. So that is usually what I do with the less leaf maples. I do a little bit of that thinning out if the maples are already, it's structurally they are okay. Some of them, because I have been working on them, they are okay. One of the things I try to do to generate that definition that I was talking is removing anything that is going under the arching, the part of the branch that is arching. So all that growth over here, I try to generate it. That will open up my branches, and that is how I separate them and show that movement. So yeah, that is what I actually do with the maples. I don't know if you guys have questions about that.
That was amazing. That was really great to see the demo. There is some questions. Are you ready for the Q&A yet, or did you have something else you wanted to
Oh,
say?
actually, let me share the screen for one more thing that is actually kind of like I just find out, and it has been a question what is happening? It has been, maybe we do what I set up, what is happening with my, maybe we do oh, there we go. This one is the one I want to show. This is,
it's not, we don't see it. Oh, there. Okay.
This is the product that I just find out, and they sell it at slots. But this product, I was reading about it. This is a pretty strong product, but it's the first product that talks about helping with verticillium wilt. Verticillium wilt is something that maples are susceptible. It's in the soil. You don't transmit it through the prune, with the shears or anything. But this product, which I had not used, but I am putting it out here because it's the first product that I found that actually says that works for verticillium wilt. So I wanna show that because that is a disease that attacks some maples. It is in the soil, so we cannot do anything about. And it can actually, usually what it does is just kills part of the trees. So you're supposed to spray with this, follow the instructions. I am not gonna say how to use it or how much to put, just follow the instructions. Just know that this is a strong product to put in your garden. So that just kind of like be aware of doing exactly how they say. Here it says soil drench or foliar spray. So that is why I think it's important for verticillium wilt. And yeah, that was the first time I have find something for it. So if you guys have problems with some weird dieback in your tree, with some marks in the bark gets really black. So then that is verticillium wilt, you can use this. That will be it. Oh, you are mute.
Oh, sorry. Now I'm muted. Okay. That was amazing. Tons of great information as always. And I just kind of want to reinforce what she's saying. As a designer, if you have these trees in your garden, there's such an incredible element to your space, and they're ornamental and they're very decorative. And I can't tell you how many times I go into a consultation where I see maples that are just hedged, and it just breaks my heart because there's so much value there that you're missing when the trees are hedged. So definitely it's worth it if you have a tree to hire a professional like Elizabeth, or to actually just, learn yourself how to really prune it well, because it's just such a value in the garden. So, and clearly, she's a total artist at it. So anyway, and then we do have a few other questions. One thing that came to mind when you were talking about watering is, do you like using those bags, those tree bags around the tree? That I find those helpful during drought.
Yeah, those are really good. What I like about them is that you can actually put a lot of water in the bag and it will slowly drip. Mm-hmm. So you have like a good amount of water slowly dripping in your root system. Let me bring, I am sorry, I have that tool that I want to show everybody. That it has been my top secret lately.
Okay. Yeah, Elizabeth is taking care of several of my clients' trees, and it's night and day. After she comes,
Yeah, so this is one that I have been recommending to people for, like, starting in winter. You can use it in the spring, you can use it so you attach the hose here, and this, I was using it, so it's a little dirty, and this has some holes over here, you can see the holes that are full with dirt right now. And this will you put it in around the root system of your tree and turn it on. Well, you turn on the hose and then you turn this on. And this is gonna put water straight in the root system.
Yeah.
So you're not gonna have any water flowing around, any water evaporation. And this has been saving my life for the last year for trees that I saw they were having problems and issues. Mm-hmm. So it's called, well, I don't know what it's called, but it's Lowe's Garden Center sell it. Yep. There are other types that actually put fertilizer on this. I like this one because it's a really good design. The tip doesn't shoot water. So what happens is when you are putting it in the soil, it doesn't get full with dirt because it's just a really, and it's a really strong tool too. So I love this, and this has been really, really good for watering trees. I used to use the bags, but now I like this better because it takes me shorter periods of time watering my plants, and I know it's in the root system. You don't have to go too deep, so you can see, well, in this case, you can see how deep I went in my tree because I want the water to go down. So I don't have to go, I mean, it's pretty long, but I just use like maybe 6 inches and then let the water run, and it puts a lot of pressure. So you actually want to open your hose pretty good so you have that pressure, and then you don't have to stand up there for too long.
Yeah,
so I'm recommending that for watering actually.
Yeah, and I thought that was super interesting what you were saying about this trees being under stress and with water and the drought and what we're seeing, and just pay attention to those signs and everything. So that's really helpful. We have a ton of questions. I know we're not going to get to them all. But I just want to say that, first of all, you can, we're here to support both Elizabeth and I. She put her contact info up. I can put her info in the chat. She's always open to helping answer questions, and I'm also available too. You can email us your questions. And then I do want to remind you that this is being recorded. And so the recording will be available on Friday, whichever day that is. The 11th. Oh my gosh, it's already the 11th of February. It's so crazy. Yeah. So the recording will be up, and I send a link to the recording in the follow-up email that you'll get. And it's either on our website or it's on our YouTube channel. We'll just take a couple questions because I know it's late and everybody's going to want to make dinner and stuff. But Elizabeth, what fertilizer do you recommend?
Okay. So there is actually, you can use a fertilizer if you are putting a fertilizer in pots. If your tree is in a pot, you want to fertilize with something that is organic. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you want something that is not going to get the roots burn or the tree burn. I actually, by experience, burned my maple. The first time I bought this beautiful maple, and I over fertilized it. And what happened is when you over fertilize, the leaves start drying at the edges and actually wilting. And that is when I realized that maples don't really like a lot of fertilizer. So my maple was in a pot at the time, and what I did is I put Maxine because it was liquid, and I didn't know, but I got like the one that is like 36.
The acid food.
Yeah, and that was too much. So I would say, you could use in Slows they have one that is specific for maples. Mm-hmm. I like to use that one because it's not so concentrated. But the important thing is use something that has even numbers and that the numbers are like 5, 10, 13. Don't use something that is 36, 20, 25. But
that won't be organic anyway.
Yeah, and I try to do, so now in my pots, I try to do organic So I use like the Acelia Camellia fertilizer. I do use that one in my because I have 2 bonsais, so they are really little, and I fertilize them. So I use something that it is not chemical, so pretty much it's not those little concentrated fertilizers that are like pebbles. No, I use actually the powder ones. And that has been really good for my maples. I don't burn it anymore.
Another question on wilting. I don't know if you recommend this. I know I've done this before in the city because a lot of times the trees can get salt burn, or I guess they can get wind burn too. I use the cloud cover on them. Have you used that before? What do you recommend?
I use cloud cover when so cloud cover you can use it, but it cannot be something that you use all the time. Okay. Because what happens is the cloud cover covers the leaf, so the leaf cannot transpire. So so if you're gonna do, I had done cloud cover when I like newly planted a tree and it was kind of like windy. So I use cloud cover maybe once a season. I put the cloud cover on it.
That's the name of the product, just if ever anyone's wondering. Cloud cover is the name of the product, or it's called Wilt Stop too. But yeah.
So so I will say you can use those products. I use it, for example, when I am moving trees from cities to cities, and it's gonna be in my truck, and so I use that. But it's not something I will use it like constantly in one season 4 to 5 times. It's just a one time in a season. But yes, I had used it, and it doesn't affect the trees. And actually, it does protect them.
And then for sunburn, are you painting on the trunk, or what are you doing for sunburn?
Yeah, so so the thing about sunburn usually happens, well, I had few trees that actually get sunburn because like they were exposed to sun in the middle of summer. Some of them for some reason it was like the sun was hitting on them throughout the year and they couldn't take it. So when there are situations like that, I do paint the area. So there is, and I sorry about that, but Slows has it. I know that there is a product that you can put in the wounds. Yep. So sometimes I use that when the tree has, let me see if one of these has sunburn. I think I saw one. So when the tree, look, this is perfect. When the tree has sunburn, they start doing this. They start kind of like drying and peeling and doing that. So when the tree is doing that, there is going to be a time that if this is the first time happening or second time happening, you will not see this much. You will just see some peeling in the bark. When this is like years, like 2-3 years, so then this is what it starts showing. I don't know if you can see it, but it started splitting, and now you can see your the inside of the
stem, branch.
The dead wood. Yeah, you can see the dead wood. So in that case, the tree is kind of like overexposed. So what I do is you could paint a little bit like with white paint. Sometimes, if it's at the entry or something, you don't want to see white paint. So what I do is I use that, there is a sealer that is called a wound sealer for pruning. That really, I don't use it for pruning. I actually use it for this because what I want to do is I want to protect that from keep peeling and peeling and peeling, not being able to heal. Because if you can see the tree, the brown that you see there is the tree trying to heal all that brown. And some points the tree is not being, in this point, is not being able to do it. So in this case, I'm going to go and do put a little bit of the sealer, which is brown, and I just put like, not like a concentrated that spray and then you can paint. I use the one with the brush, and I put brush through it, and I put it in like spring, or I go and I do it in fall. The reason why I do it in fall is because if I am already seeing the hardwood, which I will show you in that example, you are going to have moist going in there. So that sealer protects that hardwood from getting all damaged by the moist. So then I put it from the spring, from the fall, and it usually holds on for like 2 years. So it's a really good thing. And it's a sealer for pruning cuts, but I won't use it for that. I use it for the sunburn. And because it's brown, so it's not so much as the white paint. I used to put the white paint, but now I'm using the sealer.
Oh, that's a great tip. Well, as always, like I said, you're just so full of information, very well presented, very accessible. And I really appreciate your time and your expertise. I know we're not getting to all the questions. I'm really sorry, but like I said, I put Elizabeth's contact, her website, in the chat. And then I'm also available if you want to email me any questions. I can either try to answer them or forward them to her. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And I hope to see you at future webinars, or hope to know that you're at future webinars. I guess I don't actually see anybody. But have a good rest of your Wednesday evening. Thanks so much. And thanks again, Elizabeth. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And you can email me anytime. My email is gowithnature@yahoo.com. And you can email all the questions about the products and how do I use them. And I will send it back to you. In any case, all of the products that I talk, they sell them at slopes. And they usually will know which products I was talking about.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Bye. Have a good night, everybody. Bye.